Welcome to the Fish House Nation podcast presented by Catch Cover, your home for ice fishing news, tips, stories, and strategies. And now, your host, Chris Larson.
Hello and welcome to the Fish House Nation podcast. Joining us today is Dan DeJaeghere from JB Lures and Mission Tackle. Dan, thanks for joining the show.
Oh, you bet. Thanks for having me.
Dan, before we get into the products, tell me a little bit about your company.
So, well, I have two of them that's kind of being integrated into one, to be really honest. Mission Tackle was a company we started up in 2016 by we, my wife, and myself. It's a lot of jigs, terminal tackle, spinner baits, that type of thing. And then in January 1st of 2019, so almost 2 years ago now, we bought JB Lures from Tom and Sam Langhoff, who had it for, I want to say 30 years. JB's got a long history, particularly in the Midwest and particularly Minnesota and stuff. So we bought that brand. We thought it was an excellent fit. And we have them both actually located now in one warehouse in Bemidji, Minnesota. That's where I'm at right now. And they're in one catalog, and we're kind of combining the two companies, but the brand names will always be separate. We think that they both have a lot to offer, the brand names and stuff. So our new catalog actually is combined the two product lines, but the brand names are separate. So kind of two companies merging into one, basically.
Yeah, Dan, it's that time of year. People are getting their ice fishing gear ready to go. We'll be on the ice soon. Wanted to have you on today to talk about the ice products from JB. Let's talk about the Fish House float first. Tell me a little bit about that product.
Sure. This was an idea that was spawned. Actually, I wish I could tell you that I thought of this whole thing and it was genius. And honestly, I didn't. I wound up, they come out with it right before we bought the company. And I think they just produced several thousand of them. And I mean, they sold out practically immediately. And it's just a regular balsa float. It's got a quick change slot on the bottom, so you can easily, it's a slip float, but you can easily pop it on or off your line. And it's got a 10-inch fiber optic stem on it, so it's designed to stick above the floor of these permanent fish houses. It was just a product that, was designed to be used. It has other applications too, but primarily in these permanent fish houses with these elevated floors to make it easy to see your bobber. Just not anything real complex, but just a simple solution to a simple problem. And it is just a hot item for us. So,
how do you rig that thing? If somebody wants to get it set up in their house, how are they going to go about rigging that?
Well, a lot of guys, just run. A lot of guys want to jig with one rod and run a set line with one rod. Or in some cases, they'll run all set lines. But you can use it with a rattle reel. You can use it with a regular rod and reel combo. But it's just designed like any other bobber rig that people so commonly use, particularly for their second line. And like I said, it's got a quick detach feature on it. So it functions as a slip float. So you put a slip bobber knot on your line, and you can attach the float. And again, you can take it off or on, change sizes or what have you. And then just set it up with anything from a plain hook for a real finesse presentation or to just a teardrop. My favorite is just to run a minnow and usually a number 4 Gemini, depending on where I'm fishing. But most of my fishing, due to where I'm located, is Red or Lake of the Woods, which are common wheelhouse destinations, obviously. So that's the way I like to rig it. So, and we have several versions of this and sizes. We actually do 4 sizes now: an extra small, medium, and large. And then we have an unweighted and a weighted version. And this year we introduced a new lighted version, which is, so far, we're getting tons of positive response to that.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that weighted and unweighted. What application would you want to use each one of those? Would I want to use a weighted versus unweighted or unweighted versus weighted?
Sure. It all has to do with the size of the lure that you have on. And initially we come out with the unweighted. Then we discovered one thing with this, because it's 10, the stem is 10 inches. The overall length is almost 13 inches on this. So it is a hair bit top heavy compared to a typical bobber. So you probably need just a little bit more weight than you would with, say, a standard float that doesn't have this long stem on it. So so we like that. And the one nice thing on our packaging, we list what specific weights each bobber will support, because there's nothing, you don't want to go out and buy it and then discover, oh, you put your favorite lure on and what happens, the bobber sinks, or it's not the right bobber for the purpose. So on the back of each card, it lists what size weights it's designed to support. But in general, I actually like the weighted one a little better because I don't have to use a lot of weight. I can run a weighted small and run number 4 Gemini with no extra weight, and it'll support just like a regular Shiner, Rainbow, any type of minnow like that. And it's balanced out perfectly, because you don't want to make the opposite of mistake of having the float too buoyant. And as you know, sometimes in the winter, these fish are pretty lethargic and don't, if there's too much resistance, they just won't take the whole presentation down. So it's important that you balance that out, that the float and the presentation you're using, balance it out, so that obviously the float has to float, but you want a minimum of resistance there for that fish to easily take that float underneath.
Yeah, one of the things that I love about this product, not only can you see the tip of that bobber, so you can see if a fish grabs it from anywhere in the house, but I think the cool thing about it is that you've got that length and you've got a lot of sensitivity there compared to a different style of bobber, where you can really even see the minnow moving around. You can kind of see, okay, maybe my minnow died off, but you can definitely see those real sneaky type bites because of the sensitivity with that long tip on it.
Correct, and that's important. And again, on an ideal day when fish are biting well, this isn't quite as key to fine tune it. But let's be honest, most of the time that ideal day was like yesterday when you and I get to go fishing. We're a lot of times we're dealing with finicky fish, tough bites, particularly when you get into midwinter and stuff. And so again, it's important to be able to rig that, the whole rigging, hook, line, sinker, and float to where it works together so that fish has a minimum of resistance to pull that float under. So
we've been talking about the fish house float as a great solution for the permanent house angler, but is there an application for anglers using pop-up and temporary type shelters as well?
Oh yeah, we've had application. People use these outside. A lot of people will run these. When you have snow on the ice, which is almost always the case, in midwinter. Again, it's hard to see a regular float, but you can put this. A lot of guys, I do this a lot of times. I'll be fishing out of just a flip style house, and I always I want to have a couple of options, and I want to have, hey, is there a bite going on this spot, 10 or 20 yards away from me, and I can put drill a few holes outside and set this up in the hole, and it's very visible with that stem sticking above the snow. So there's obvious applications there, and I think we've even had some people using them for open water applications. And in fact, on the new lighted float, we have 2 open water models with shorter 2-inch stems, just designed to be seen in rough water, and just designed as open water floats specifically for that.
Very cool. JB Lures also has a full lineup of jigs and spoons. You've kind of talked about the Gemini a little bit. Tell me those jigs and even kind of the Gemini in particular.
Well, the Gemini, I think, was the thing that got, is JB's signature ice fishing product. It's been out forever. I remember when Tom originally designed this, he started selling it around to the resorts and stuff on Mille Lacs, and they would actually put on their signs at the time, those changeable signs, Gemini's in stock or whatever. And it's been one of those items that a lot of fishing tackle items you launch have like a window to them where they're hot for a couple of years. Particularly ice lures are this way. You're kind of faddish almost. But one thing we found with the Gemini is still selling strong after all these years. And I think one of the things is that if something's fishable and it catches fish and it has good applications, then people continue to buy it. And that's what we found with the Gemini. Last year we launched a whole series of gold-plated ones called Goldback Geminis, and those have been a huge hit on stained water lakes in particular, Lake of the Woods, Red Lake, Devil's Lake in particular. and those are genuine 24 gold plated. And so this year we took the same lure. We have a jigging spoon called a Weasel, and we did the same thing. We offered a gold plated Weasel series, and again the backs are 24 karat gold plated, and they that nothing flashes like real gold, and that's why people will pay extra money to get a gold plated lure, because it catches fish.
Yeah, it's super cool. Anything else you want to cover as far as Mission and JB lures, tackle end of it, that you wanted to talk about today?
I should mention I mentioned briefly the lighted fish house float, and this is brand new this year. You're just seeing on dealer shelves here now in the last 30 days or so. But what it is, it's a fiber optic stem, and it's a lithium battery that's included that runs at about 50 hours, and it sends a beam of light all the way up that fiber optic stem all the way up to the top. And let's be honest, Chris, most of these people that own permanent fish houses, one of the attractions is that they can stay in that fish house. It's a camper for them. They go up for 3 days. They're living in that fish house is what they're doing. And so one of the advantages of that is they're able to fish 24/7. And so obviously a lot of that time is dark, so they can put this out and see this float very visible in the dark. So that one's going to be, I think, a really cool one that's going to have a lot of applications, because of these people. They don't quit fishing at 5 or 6 o'clock. They're fishing, right around the clock while they're in their fish house.
Yeah, it's definitely the reason why I love fishing out of the wheelhouse is the day never ends. You're always at it. You've always got lines down. It's just a fun way to enjoy it. Dan, if people want to know more about you and your company, what's the best way for them to find you?
Probably the best way is our websites, jblures.com and missiontackle.com. We have our, all of our full product selections on there. Just to update things periodically there, as far as just information about our lures or fishing presentations and what we do.
Awesome. Dan DeJaeghere from Mission Tackle and JB Lures, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate your time and telling us about the products. I'm super excited about getting out on the ice, and it's coming real soon.
All right. Thank you very much, Chris.
Thanks for listening to the Fish House Nation podcast presented by Catch Cover. For more ice fishing content, visit our blog at catchcover.com.